Today, the curtain went up for the 114th Congress, the first in 8 years with Republican majorities in the House and Senate. Control yourself, Jessica. And the session began with yet another GOP versus GOP fight when it came to the House. John Boehner reelected as Speaker, but with more defections than any sitting Speaker has ever faced. And it leads to more than a few interesting questions, including what is the agenda going to be of the GOP, and can the Republicans unite here and still bring Democrats into the fold? They're going to need votes in the Senate. And how will the White House respond to this? It's going to be an interesting next few months, Andrew.
And we're going to start to get answers on some of those questions, Rich, as early as this week, with some key issues that the GOP is going to try to unite behind, try to get some Democratic support, and use to put pressure on the president. First up will be the controversial Keystone oil and gas pipeline. Expect a bill to pass Congress this week or next, and it will have enough votes to pass the Senate. But the White House said today the president would veto a Keystone bill, a potentially unpopular decision. Most of the major tests for Obamacare in 2015 will be in the courts, but early on, Republicans will pass a bill changing the definition of full-time worker for healthcare purposes. Right now, it's somebody who works 30 hours a week. Republicans want to raise that to 40 hours. Expect an early battle over immigration, with Republicans using funding for the Department of Homeland Security to push back against the president's executive order limiting deportations. Same thing with Obama's push to reestablish relations with Cuba. Republicans will likely block the appointment of an ambassador and block funding to build an embassy. Also, Congress is expected to pass sanctions against Iran, pressuring the president to try to block them, and not to mention new hearings on the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. Of course, the president could simply veto any bill that he dislikes that passes Congress, but that comes with a risk. There are issues where Obama will need Republican help. He has two nominees who need approval, Defense Secretary and Attorney General. He also wants to keep regulations in place covering the environment and Wall Street. And at some point this year, the government will reach its debt limit once again, with the potential to face yet another fiscal cliff. But there are also pressures within the GOP as well. The next presidential race takes shape in 2015. GOP will want good PR for the party as primary season approaches. And don't underestimate the pressure on new Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. He's got a majority of just 54 votes, so he'll need Democrats to join the GOP on major issues to avoid Democratic filibusters and to try to get his agenda passed. Rich?
Thanks, Andrew. Jessica, I'll start with you. What was interesting was, as we said in the vote, not that there was any doubt that Boehner would get to keep his gig, and not that there was any doubt that he was going to shed a few tears when he, did the gavel, but the voices, and it's not just the electeds. I mean, from the Malkins of the world, Ericksons, you know these from the red states, influential voices on the conservative side, they say no more Boehner. And they're even going after McConnell. And they're thinking that they're going to be Democrat light here. I thought the Tea Party's power had come and gone, and that there was a common foe, which was the White House. There's still very obvious today is some internal party fighting going on. Are you surprised how much still hasn't been resolved?
No, I mean, look, this isn't something that doesn't happen on the Democratic side either. You have this whole debate amongst Democrats of, the income inequality, and are you Democrat enough? Are you far enough on the left? Are you far enough on the right? This is an age-old debate, right? It's a little bit like herding cats, and it's a big country. So you've got everyone with their own interests. You've got a few people that want to get their name in the press. But I think ultimately they will come together. There are some very real issues, certainly, that will be viewed through the lens of the 2016 election. And they have an obligation to get some stuff done. I was disappointed that the president came out today right away and said he's going to veto the Keystone bill. For the guy that laments, the partisanship in Washington, it wasn't really the right foot to start out on, I think, with this new Congress. And, he's certainly going to be in legacy building mode, and they're going to need each other.
Did you say the president's obstructionist on Keystone?
No.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a bipartisan. It has bipartisan support. It's something that the Republicans have clearly made a top issue agenda item for many years now. Than it has gone through.
You get odds in Vegas. What's the greater likelihood? Republicans overplay their hand, or the White House, or the White House says, you know what, we're going to start saying no off the bat. Who wins the PR battle in the next 30, 60 days? And like Andrew said, they're not going to waste a lot of time.
Well, first of all, I think these things are negotiable, right? There's like 3 or 4 things on the table. He could say, I'm going to veto that, and then make a concession on immigration or something like that. Maybe, I'm thinking, unless he is obstructionist totally all the way down the line, I agree with Jessica. What would be his point of not getting anything done? The thing about the pipeline is, though, that you got to wonder. I just bought gasoline for $2.97. Why do I need this thing? I mean, right now. I mean, and I think the public opinion probably would go in that direction too. At this point, forget the environmental concerns. What's the real economic concern? Who really benefits from this thing? It's going to be exported anyway. So, you know, it's exported oil.
You know, Andrew, you said one of the cudgels they could have is, hey, we got the debt limit coming up. Do they really think that's a card they're going to want to play? I mean, who thinks that's a winning card to say, hey, I'll take you over the cliff if you're not careful?
How many people have we seen in the last 3 or 4 years play that card or play the federal budget as that card? Everybody thinks it's fraught with peril, but there are a lot of people who think that's the best way to play hardball and to try to get what you want.
Plus, it's complicated by who's running for president,
and keep
right?
in mind all the different, right, but you've got the presidential race in 2016, but you've also got a third of the Senate up and everybody in the House, and everybody's got to get their own constituencies behind them to protect their own you-know-whats going forward. So it's balancing all of those competing self-interests. I mean, it's the same story all the time, but I don't know if Republicans can, I don't know if Democrats can unite. Don't forget, you're going to have a presidential candidate on the Democratic side, and the sitting president who may not see eye to eye and probably shouldn't, and how they get along.
And to both Phil and Andrew's point, this is a president who wants to get some stuff done. He don't want to just sit around and run the clock out at the end. He's got some ideas. You think we're going to be surprised by how much the president's willing to play ball, or is he going to take the other tack to say, you know what, I've dealt with this for 6 years. And you guys telling me no on every single thing. Now, finally, you got the gavel. I'll show you what it's like to hear no. Which one do you think you got? The bitter president, or this one who says, I want to do some legacy building and I'll do some horse trading? Which one?
You got the president that's going to say, let's do some legacy building. However, I hope that Mr. Obama enjoyed that annual vacation. I really hope that he enjoyed it, because he's going to be tested in ways that he didn't know possible with this brand new Congress.
And on that day, and on that note, I should say, we will segue into some local stuff. Big day for politicians who aren't having good days. Accused of corruption, Michael Grimm officially resigning. Opening statements got underway, and Malcolm Smith's retrial as well. We're going to bring you up to date on that and more after this.